Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Aquarian Wisdom Festival. I am your host and the creator of this event, Jocelyn Mercado. And here in the Aquarian Wisdom Festival, you are invited to gather with speakers, teachers, thought leaders, musicians, and artists who will illuminate our hearts and minds with paradigm shifting perspectives from many diverse and multidimensional fields. All topics included in this festival are specifically selected to guide you, our beautiful attendees, to live a passionate and fully awakened life. Together in sacred space, we will hold workshops, lead experiential practices, and share life-changing wisdom so that together we can optimally navigate this momentous paradigm shift into the Aquarian age. And so today I am here with Kathryn Raea. Welcome, Raea. Thank you so much for being a part of this event.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yay, can't wait to talk with you. So Kathryn Raea, who she goes by Raea, having first worked as a wilderness educator in mountain ranges all over the world, and second as a freelance writer, Raea began her third career as an entrepreneur at age 31 in Asheville, North Carolina, one of my favorite places. Her company, Hanami Tea, is a pouring of love for tea, culture, and mythology, and aims to educate the public about herbalism and mythology through organic loose leaf teas inspired by goddesses. Raea has traveled all over the world and brings an enthusiasm for feminism, sustainability, and Indigenous rights to the entrepreneurial journey. She currently operates her expanding business in Asheville, North Carolina, and enjoys hiking and drinking tea daily in the Appalachian Mountains. So, Raea, your topic for today, which I love so much, is nature connection, goddess archetypes, and the link between tea and spirituality. And so we are going to cover a broad range of fascinating topics today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yes, me too. Well, I am very curious, starting out here as with your career as a wilderness educator and being in mountain ranges all over the world. So can you share one or two key learnings that stand out from you from that part of your life?
Yeah, totally. So I worked for 6 years, traveling all over the world, leading groups of students, usually college students, on long expeditions, 30 days in the wilderness. So we would be, 2 or 3 days away from roads, no phone service, completely isolated in wilderness environments. And one of the things that I just loved so much about that experience was how the wilderness brings you into presence, which I think is a through line that I've carried through into my tea company. And by presence, I mean the wilderness kind of like hammers presence into you. And that's because sometimes you'll be being plummeted by 50-mile-an-hour snowstorms, like, crashing against the side of your head when you're deep in the mountains. So there's an impossibility to not being present when you're in the deep wilderness, which is a wonderful experience for young people, to be placed in a situation where they're almost forced to be present, away from phones, away from technology, and in a group of human beings traveling together across a harsh landscape. So, gosh, what I took away from that was all of that, was all of the togetherness and presence that can come from living in such a raw human way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And in relation to the goddesses, it makes me think about, this is our original state of being, right? Like deeply intermeshed with the elements and with whatever weather is happening and with the earth. So I think that's really powerful that you started out there and now you're working with the goddesses through tea.
Yeah, my life now is slightly, I am not as much snow blasting against my face, but a different kind of presence.
Yeah, yes. Well, so moving into that space then with your tea company, and you have some just absolutely luscious varieties of tea that you offer. So I know everybody's going to want to go check out your website very soon. But can you share with us, why did you name your teas after goddesses?
Yeah. Okay, so I've been excited about both tea and mythology from a very, very young age. And I mean like 4 years old. I was mixing brown sugar with tap water to make something that looked like tea. And then, at 6 or 7, I got a mythology book. So in my life, both tea and mythology have been passions of mine from the very beginning. So when it came time for me to start my own tea company, which has been something I've wanted to do for since college, um, incorporating mythology and goddesses was kind of like a natural step for me. Um, and in addition, goddesses in particular were very, very important to me as a young woman, um, discovering who I was and how I wanted to be in the world. Goddess archetypes and learning about different goddess archetypes gave me so much, not only like in my own sense of grounding, spiritual growth, how to go on a date, how to have my first job. That's something I wanted to share with other young women, through tea and through a means that would reach a lot of young women. And interestingly, in my business, what I found is that all kinds of people are interested in goddess teas, not just young women, all ages and stages of women, all genders. Men love the teas. So what I'm realizing is that studying goddesses is universally helpful and universally like a sweet and nourishing thing for all different kinds of people.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love it. Well, could you share with us just one of your teas, share what goddess, is this tea named after, and why do you love this tea?
Well, yeah, well, I love all of my teas, but the one that popped into my mind when you asked that question was Parvati's happiness. Parvati is a Hindu goddess. She's one of the most ancient goddesses in the world, and her story is it's about a young woman coming into her own strength and wisdom, and then starting her life. And I started resonating very deeply with Parvati right when I was starting my tea company, right when I was starting this journey into independence and my own project. And I started reading about her, and I learned from her, from studying her story, was that she has this whole part of her life where she goes off. Well, this is interesting. She also goes off into the wilderness and spends time as an ascetic, meditating deeply before she comes back and ends up marrying and having children. And that let me know that it was okay to be independent and spend some time single, spend some time by myself, struggle, go through it, and that the struggle and the journey was going to be worth it into coming into like a full and complete realm of happiness. So that's why I named it Parvati's Happiness. And the blend is inspired by Ayurvedic herbs. So all the herbs in the blend come from India. So Tulsi, holy basil, ashwagandha, jasmine flowers, rose petals, and sacred water, lotus leaf.
Amazing. Amazing.
And it's tasty.
I love it. Yes.
I want to say one more thing about it. With all of my teas and in all of the ways I've been inspired to make these teas, I try to make the medicinal qualities of the tea match the archetypical messages from the stories of the goddess. So with Parvati, what I took from her story was, she spent all this time in the wilderness working on her inner life, and was able to come and create an additional, like this outer material wellness as well. So what I took from her story was the folk that for true happiness, you need the inner and the outer wellness. And the herbs in Parvati's happiness are anti-anxiety herbs. They're herbs that are meant to bring you back to center, releasing the tension of your body, very supportive to the adrenals. So the medicinal quality of drinking Parvati's happiness hopefully will contribute to, the messaging around her story.
Wow, so beautiful. I love it. Well, so on that theme then of like taking good care of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Um, the entrepreneurial journey is another aspect here. And so you've been on this entrepreneurial journey with your tea business, and it's very fascinating to me. I've been so much in the online world, right? And creating Sacred Planet, it's all online. And your business has very much been, it's kind of products and, different from that. So I'm curious for you, how is it that you feel it's most important for us to be healthy, and continue practicing self-care, taking good care of ourselves while we're running a successful business?
That's a great question. And you're right. To touch on the first sort of part of that, I haven't focused very much of my energy online at all, and I'm starting to move in that direction because there's so much opportunity online. But I have really had the opportunity to work directly with customers on a weekly basis, because I sell at a local artist market, and have my hands in the herbs and in the teas. So, as far as my own personal entrepreneurial journey has gone, I have been dedicated to starting from the roots, from the ground up, and I've even been a little reticent to take steps out until I feel super super grounded in the material, in the interaction, in the intention, um, and that's been my journey, and that's what I would say to other entrepreneurs. I think some people have kind of they start up here and then they figure out how to work it down to reality. And I really started out down in the ground, in the earth, and I'm figuring out how to work it out into like a larger audience and in a bigger way. So that's what I would say is it's been incredibly important for me to stay grounded.
Yes, yeah, really important advice. And I think it's important to note that whether you start up, because I definitely started like in the spiritual planes, right? With Sacred Planet, ended up getting the guidance and the instructions to like bring that down into the 3D realm somehow. And that's what I've been doing. So I love this, that you started out with your hands in the herbs, like so close to the dirt of the earth, all of that. And then bringing that up and out. So either way, right? Whatever, all the entrepreneurs, the budding entrepreneurs listening, like either way is perfect.
And
Right?
I,
And
I
then what's right for you.
absolutely, and that's partly why I love talking to you, because we do kind of like spiral together, I think, in this way. And what I'll say on that is, so for me, because I'm so, I'm good at sleeping late. I love taking baths. I love having days off, which I don't have very many of right now. But um, for my entrepreneurial growth, I have to look for the people who are going to help me come up here and expand. And from whatever direction you're coming from, in your journey, yes, that's perfect and that's your authentic way. But to know that about yourself, so that when someone comes into your life and is able to help you in one part of that journey, to say yes. To say, okay, that's going to be challenging for me to do that, but that's who I need to be saying yes to. Like, I personally don't need any more creation help. I need help coming up here, but somebody else on their journey may need help grounding down. And so if you are self-aware in that way of your strengths and then your growth areas, you can recognize the people who are going to help, and then it becomes about teamwork, which is awesome.
Yes, definitely. I love that. And this is one other thing that you mentioned that I think is really important, is that like knowing when to say yes to an opportunity,
Totally.
even if it feels a little scary, right? Even if it's like, whoa, I've never done anything like that before, but oh, I have a feeling I
Yeah.
really need to.
Yeah, the best yeses are when it's a yes, but it feels the most horrible.
Yes, it feels the most terrifying.
Yeah, those are the yeses you need to be saying yes to. And
Definitely.
those, I've had to say no far more than I've had to say yes with my business. And that's, just as important because I think, good boundaries and knowing what you genuinely are trying to create, having a mission statement that you can always check back to. So you see, maybe you get 10 opportunities and you can check back with your mission, check back with your intentions to make sure you're saying no and yes in the right way.
Yeah, it's like cultivating both our intuition to know, and then the courage to say either yes or no, like whichever one is most aligned, and they can both feel really scary.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, and knowing how to say it respectfully. I will say, like, in this journey of being an entrepreneur, I have gotten so much better at saying no and knowing when
Yeah,
that's the right thing. So now at this point, it's a lot easier for me.
definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so can you share with us next, what is the link between tea and spirituality?
Well, that's a question right there.
That's a large question across all continents and
Oh my gosh.
cultures, right?
Yeah, and it goes back thousands and thousands of years. So there's an incredible historical connection between tea and spirituality. Um, Tea has been used in meditative practices in the East for thousands of years, um, and it's been so. So that's first what I'll say is that everything that we take today in the realm of the expanding tea culture in our country has deep roots in Asia and in China and Japan, where tea came from. So so first and foremost, for me, I would say that tea is one of like the rocks of my spiritual life, and for me personally, it is that simple presence. It is being with a cup of tea is, you know, you're not doing anything else. You're there, you're present. Um, and for me, that's a very, very simple thing. Uh, it's a very simple spirituality for me. And the other aspect, which is, and that's the way that I most practice spirituality, is through simplicity. And for other people, there's a lot more of like like I said, a historical context. Um, but the other aspect is the fact that you're actually taking in a plant, a piece of the earth, and in sitting with a plant that's grown in the earth, there's the other side of it, which is connecting with the life of that plant, of the life of the earth, and taking that in as a sacrament, as the beauty of the hands that grew the tea, the whole process that went about into the making of the tea, and the fact that that tea has arrived with you in your cup and you're taking it into your body, can be a very beautiful thing to connect with on a spiritual level. And then you can connect back with all the other pieces of the journey and into the history. And for me, I like to, use that as an opportunity to practice a sense of compassion and connection with all the pieces of that journey. So,
Yeah. Wow, it's so beautiful, and it's just powerful to think about how far reaching back in time it is, and I'm thinking of like all the midwives and the healers, whoever brewed a cup of tea to help someone heal in some way. Yeah, it like gives me chills. It's really powerful. And so it must have been, we've been in this sacred relationship with the plants, humans, in this sacred relationship with the plants since the beginning of time. And so even 10,000, 20,000 years ago, we must have been making tea or more. So
absolutely.
that is just, yeah, really powerful to think about. And we still are,
Yeah.
carrying this forward. I'm going to, I'm not going to see tea the same way ever again after having this conversation. I love the depth of that.
And there's so many different cultural perspectives on tea. It's an endless opportunity for exploring different um, spiritual paths, and tea has been a part of art as well. The Japanese tea ceremony is deeply tied in with the concepts in Japanese art. So, it's endless. It's an endless opportunity for delving in.
Well, could you share a little bit more about that, about Japanese tea ceremony, and maybe what are the key facets of that
Yeah, sure.
that are?
I will say I'm not an expert on Japanese tea ceremony, and there are some wonderful practitioners in this country and all around the world who are dedicated to studying Japanese tea ceremony. But I know a little bit about it. So I don't know a lot about when it came about, but it is an ancient ceremony. And one of the things that I find most inspiring about it is its connection to the concept in Japanese art, wabi-sabi, which wabi-sabi refers to an aesthetic of beauty in which simplicity and imperfection and natural beauty are prized. So an example of wabi-sabi might be, many people are familiar with the stone paths in Kyoto that you can go and walk along these stone paths where the stones are coming up out of the water, but they're not spaced at regular intervals. They're slightly different from each other. And it creates this beautiful experience that also brings you into presence, because you have to pay attention to where you're stepping and you can notice the imperfections. One of the tenets of wabi sabi is that the moon slightly obscured by a cloud is more beautiful than the moon, just the full moon.
Oh, wow.
The little bit of imbalance, a little bit of imperfection brings about the beauty of the moment of wabi sabi, and that's seen throughout Japanese art. So in Japanese tea ceremony, that is very prized. And again, I'm not an expert on this, but in my understanding, when you're approaching a traditional Japanese tea ceremony, you have the opportunity to walk through a garden to arrive at the place where you're served tea. And in that garden are stones that are placed in a way that reflect wabi-sabi, and you walk along the path, and that is the first part of bringing you into presence, bringing you into the space in which you're going to be served tea. And also traditionally, the entrance into the tea house, you have to kind of crawl through it, which represents, like all of us being humble and coming together into a place of equality when we're drinking tea together. So when I first started my business, I wanted to go down that path of studying Japanese tea ceremony, and it's still an interest of mine. But the goddess line that I created, just took over, took off.
The goddess said, "I'm coming to the forefront."
The goddess said, "This is your job."
Yeah.
It's this, but it's this.
Right. Maybe later.
So again, and if people want to, I have some resources for folks who want to learn more about Japanese tea ceremony. I can send you to the right people who have been dedicated to studying this, and who will have more information for you.
Yeah. Well, I love what you shared about wabi sabi, and that's so thinking about self-care again, right? That is such an important principle, to honor our imperfections, to stop criticizing ourselves for our imperfections, and like to love ourselves more for the imperfections.
I actually have never thought of that before, of turning wabi sabi on ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, that's what was like coming through for me.
That's awesome. I love that. Because that it's true of a person, and we actually do see this in beauty standards. Sometimes it's the model with the gap in their tooth that gets the most, the most lucrative gig, because they have that essence of wabi sabi about them. But yes, to us as well as, not being models, we can find it in ourselves too.
Yeah, definitely. And just all aspects, I think we would be a much greater peace of mind if we could just love our imperfections. So
Oh, totally.
something to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah.
Well, so for you, and we may have gone into this a little bit already, but thinking about nature connection, what is the connection for you between nature and tea?
Well, tea is nature, because tea is a plant. So tea is grown from the earth, and it is deserving of all the respect and care that we would give to any living being of the planet. So to me, um, there's no separation there, and it's the same with food. Any relationship we have with um, food is a relationship with the earth, is a nature connection. Um, I'll stop there for now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, this is something that we have so largely forgotten because food, tea, water, it's also readily available in our westernized society, not everywhere in the world.
Right.
But we take it so for granted. And I mean, these are gifts of life from the earth and the sun. Like, it's really, and this is why we should say a blessing or pray or just give thanks to that plant or animal, before we consume our food. And it's really important to remember.
And it's I think one way people could like feel that connection is to um, get into and learn a little bit about herbalism, because there's the tea plant, which is what we were talking about with the Japanese tea ceremony, and then tea is one plant, and all white, green, black teas are made from the same plant. And then there's this vast world of herbalism, which is all the medicinal herbs of the planet, from cultures from around the world. All cultures have their own set of herbal medicine that often came from the women, um, who would learn about these herbs to help other women give birth. So if we start studying herbalism and herbs, we not only see that plants are nourishing us, but they're also providing medicine for us and helping our bodies, process the craziness of being alive, and all that comes with that. So, going down this path of herbalism, which is part of one of the intentions of my company, is to educate a little bit about herbalism. And then you see that not only is the earth, giving us sustenance, but it's providing exactly what we need in order to heal and thrive.
Yeah.
And in that, I think from there, you can understand this. That's a new way to understand the earth as a mother, like the earth as a provider, and to really feel that gratitude when you find a medicine that grows naturally on the earth that helps you. Then that is a connection that we have with our mothers who nurture and heal us, and that is a connection that we can also feel with the earth and with all the things that the earth grows and creates.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And any way that we can remember that, honor that, celebrate the sacredness of that is really important. I love how in your bio it says that you enjoy hiking and drinking tea daily in the Appalachian Mountains. And I picture you up on this, like, you've been on a trail for 3 miles and you're at this like beautiful overlook and like sipping the tea. And I'm thinking, oh, I need to go do that.
That's exactly what happens.
It's so beautiful. But it's like you're so surrounded by the beauty, the glory of the natural world, and then the sacredness of the tea. I just
and we have an incredible medicinal herbalism culture here in Western North Carolina, here in the Appalachians, and there are a number of herbal schools and a deep history of American Indian herbalism, and then settlers coming in and learning from the American Indians, the Cherokee people lived here, about the herbalism of this region. So, you know, literally on a hike here, you can pick your tea as you go. And I always, whenever I'm picking wild plants, I always ask the plant, you know, if I can take some. And, you know, earlier we were talking about saying yes and no. And when you're harvesting plants, you can also sense from the plant if it's a yes or a no for them, before you take the flower, before you pick the grass. And oftentimes you'll hear the yes. And I think, and sometimes you'll hear the no, and then you just say, you know, thank you. And you let that plant live and grow, because maybe it had something else to do. It needed to grow more. And when you hear the yes, that increases the sense of connection, the nature connection, because, you know, now you're friends with that plant. You know, you've spoken to it, you've made an agreement. That plant has agreed and said yes to coming with you and being part of your body and being taken into your life. And I mean, there's no greater connection than friendship. And to become friends with the earth and friends with the plants is, I mean, that's pretty good, pretty cool. Yeah.
Yes. I really, really love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so I know you do something called a moon day.
Oh, yeah.
So could you share with us what that is all about?
Yes, I've been doing moon days for 10 years, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to share about them, because when I tell my friends about them, they seem really excited and want to do it too. So the essence of a moon day is turning off your phone in the evening, and then waking up the next morning, and you have that entire day, no phone, no screens, no laptop, and not turning back on your stuff until the following morning. So you have at least 24 hours without input. And input is the important thing here, to just like give yourself that time to do whatever you need to do, whether that's decompressing and reading a book all day, or whether that's allowing the space for boredom to come and sitting with the boredom, and then allowing the creative breakthroughs that come from not jumping up and grabbing your phone and checking Facebook and being on Instagram. So for me, moon days have been an incredibly important part of my entrepreneurial journey, because it's when I get the clear messages of what's next. It's when I make my epic mind maps and my lists. And it's because I have a little dish full of quartz crystals that I like put my phone under, and I say thank you to my phone for being such a useful tool. But I'm like giving my phone a rest, and I'm letting that day be whatever it needs to be for me. And the other important aspect of moon days is that it's cyclical. So I try to do at least once a month. And if I were really doing what I wanted to do, I would do one a week. But I do at least once a month, and I schedule my moon day in conjunction with my own body's cycle. But anybody can do it. It can be scheduled with the cycles of the moon. The new moon, around the new moon, is a great time to just take some time for yourself, reset your intentions, and have that space without your phone. And I'm kind of spoiled. I live by myself. I have my kitty cats, but I'm able to do these moon days because I live by myself. So I'm able to do them easily. But you can create them in a way that works for your life. But I have personally found that a full 24 hours really is very helpful and nurtures the whole rest of the month of connection and, going out and work. My whole month is nourished by taking a little bit of going into that darkness, taking that quiet, taking that time.
Yes. Oh, I love this so much. And my first thought is, I will have, so for me, there are various critical people. So I live on my own some of the time and with my kids some of the time.
Yeah.
Like, they're with their dad part of the time. So I have a couple thoughts that came through. One is there are certain critical people I would have to say, like for my kids and their dad and like my partner, right? To let them know I am not going to be contactable on this day, right? And then that I knew that would give me greater peace of mind during that time. Because if not, I'd be thinking, oh shoot, what if my kids try to call and they can't get me? Or, that kind of thing. So to give yourself peace of mind, right? Let all the critical people know that you're going to be offline.
Yes, the intention is not to disappear or
Right.
like
Suddenly.
anybody, but I think so. Yes, definitely the forewarning to those people who may be used to getting in touch with you every day, or but I think part of the beauty is to break the modern expectation of 100% availability 100% of the time, within ourselves and to others. Of course, we want to create relationships with people that are predictable and consistent and nourishing. So we don't want to just fly away and not be available when someone's thinking we are. But I do think that there is incredible value to not being available some of the time, because when you intentionally create a space where you are not available to the inputs from screens and social media and other people, it creates this openness where something you may never have thought of before has the opportunity to come through. It creates the void or the empty space in which a seed is planted or which a seed can start to grow. And for me, as someone who identifies as a very creative person, and that's the basis of my my company, that is, I mean, that's not only helpful, but it's vital to my creativity. So I hope if you take one thing from this interview, if that sounds good to you, I want people to have the permission to create that space for themselves in whatever way makes sense for their lives, and allow that void. And again, one of the most interesting parts of it is the feeling of boredom, is coming up to that moment where you don't know what to do with yourself and you're bored and you'd like to check your phone. And knowing that, for me, because I put my phone like under the bowl of crystals, I'm not allowed to touch it. I make little tricks for myself so I don't cheat. Just being with the boredom and being in the space of the void is a bit uncomfortable, but it can be very juicy, and it can lead you through to another interesting place.
Yeah, and one more thing I think is really important is, so as a mom, right? So if there's moms listening, especially if you're a single mom, right, to arrange for one day a month like this would be just so incredibly powerful and valuable. Because as moms, we just often don't give ourselves space like that, or we think it doesn't seem acceptable to want to be away from your children for a day. But just think how inspired you can be and how much creativity can come through, and then you can go back and be even more present for your children. So creating that space for all of us is valuable, but just for moms, I think it would be incredibly powerful.
Totally, absolutely. And for the other people in that woman's life to agree with how valuable that is, and help support her to have that time. This is a concept I first learned about years ago when I read Women Who Run with the Wolves, which is a well-beloved book by millions of people. But she talks about that in the book. The author quotes, I think, Estes. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing her name totally correctly, but she calls it going away. The importance of going away, of shutting the door, of saying I am not available right now. And she takes she talks about it in this sort of fierce way. She brings a ferocity to the concept, which I think is also something that we can give ourselves permission to have, is ferocity, to ask for the help that we need in order to take the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And like I said, I am incredibly spoiled with my situation and getting to live by myself right now. And so I'll say if 24 hours doesn't feel completely accessible, you can ferociously take an hour and a half to take a bath to yourself. And if you don't want to be ferocious about it, you can create some boundaries and ask for what you need, and say, I'm going to have, I'm going to take like a solo 2 hours, or, and work on take the concept in a way that works for you. And what's worked for me very well is pushing myself to do the full days. And sometimes I'll do 2 days, but that's challenging for me to get in these days.
Wow, this is so beautiful. I'm so glad you shared this with us, and the nuances of it, it's really, really powerful. So, well, thank you so much, Raea, for all that you have shared here. And I want to just let everybody know about your gift that you're offering to the audience. So would you want to say a few words about that?
So my whole tea line is, I have a website, and my tea line is all up on my website. You can go and you can read about the different teas, and see pictures of them, and you can see pictures of me out there selling tea. And so if you'd like to get tea, I'm going to do a promo code for y'all who are watching this interview, so you can get a little discount, and I will personally package and ship the tea to you, so that you can sip and enjoy. And I think the promo code is going to be Aquarian Wisdom, and it'll be 15% off any order.
Okay, wonderful. So, and this information is right below the video here. So everybody, if you just scroll down, you'll see a link to Raea's website, and you can see all her beautiful teas there, and you will see the 15% off and the promo code there. So just go ahead and click through and order some amazing healing goddess infused teas.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to talk with you today. Thank you.
With you as well. Thank you for having me.